Right, it is April 11th, 2026. It's Saturday. It's early morning. We're downtown Houston for the Parts of the Nation. We're going to be discussing relationship, power dynamics. Basically, what we're doing, I hope to be saving some men. Maybe I'm making it too grandiose, but I don't think I am. I hope if a man's that's going through it, maybe he's caught his wife having an affair, he thinks his wife's having an affair, he doesn't know what to do, he's spinning out of control, he searches, and maybe he finds some information that I'm giving out here because I've got info that, he's very useful. I'm passionate about this stuff, I'm extremely passionate about this stuff. After 2018, I took a heavy interest in, fixing my own dating life, And, now that I'm retired from the Houston Police Department after doing 22 years, like I've said, I've got time to just, I've been researching. Once again, I'll list some books to get, Evolution of Desire, 48 Laws of Power, Rational Male, Rollo Tomasi's Religion book, Player's Handbook by Rollo Tomasi, Atomic Attraction, Why Women Have Sex, by Dr. David Buss, Men Behaving Badly by Dr. David Buss, Practical Female Psychology, Sapiens. Just repeat this video at that part. I've said those books before, but those are books that, and I've read them over and over again. Oh, The 8-Bit Understood the Universe, and lastly, Sperm Wars. It's an excellent book. But anyway, so what we're going to do today is talk about once again the female dual mating strategy, and my whole motto or ideology or whatever you want to call it is be the alpha seed, be the alpha bangs. That's where you get your true genuine burning desire, and genuine burning desire is your leverage in a relationship. If a woman has genuine burning desire from you, she won't want you to leave. She won't want your attention, your time and attention to be removed, and that's all the power you have in relationships, is your time and attention being removed, And, things aren't going your way, if it's not going according to how you want things to go, you remove your time and attention, and if you have to, you remove it permanently. And you should, just like, what's that saying in The Heat, never commit to anything you can't leave within 30 seconds or less when the heat's coming around the corner. That's a mantra you need to be able to live with. You need to be Armageddon with these women, relationships. I don't care how long you date. It doesn't matter how long you date, how many kids you have with them. If you need to go Armageddon, again, we're talking about you, meaning get out of their life. You go by yourself. You're out of my life. I'm out, and I'm going to, get myself fixed up. Nothing will own you. Nobody will own you that you have. I'm kind of being like, little kind of hyperbolic there, but it's true. If you give your, power to somebody else, then you're not running stuff. You are their slave, and they are your master. But some guys can't. They can't seem to. Break free. Well, I got this house, these kids, you got one life. You got one life, and if you ain't happy, if you ain't living, then, like Tommy Sotomayor says, shout out to him, F them kids. He says, there's certain people that have that, F them kids, because a woman will use that don't like you, they'll use that as leverage. Well, he ain't gonna ever leave these kids, so he gonna have to do what I say. You want to make a bet? I do. In the police department, you know what you do. If you're kicking indoors, it might be confronting, gangsters, and, and I'm not, being hyperbolic with that either. If when you're kicking indoors, or you're, going up to a traffic stop, that might be your last moment on this earth. You got to fight like as if you're already dead. You have to. It's not hyperbolic. It's not, if you can't believe that you might die from something, you can't care about it too much. If you're caring about it too much, then you're not going to go with full force. If you're caring about, I can't, piss someone off, I don't want them to, nah, man, if stuff ain't going my way, I'm out, It's just like your job, you know. If your job said, if you told your job, you know what, guys, or I'm sorry, if your job told you, hey man, whatever you do, we're committed to you, no matter what. We got you. We're never firing you ever, 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 ever. You know, how motivated would you be to come to work on time? You know, why do people? I mean, we want to think sometimes. You know, we don't like to think in terms of how harsh things can be, right? Like, why do people show up to work on time? They don't want to get fired. I mean, they want that paycheck. Why are they nice to their boss? Well, they want that paycheck. You know, if your boss said, "You can say anything to me," just like some guys take it, they tolerate whatever you tolerate. People will continue to do to you. You know, if you were to walk into your boss, say, "Hey, fucker, what's up?" You know, "Hey, loser, how you doing today, boss?" You know, I mean, you know, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm not going to fire you." So that's how some of these women talk to men. And, you know, I was talking to a psychiatrist yesterday about, basically she was talking about starfish sex, you know. We got on the subject of starfish sex, you know. And I was telling her, you know, she's older and she's like, yeah, you know, because she does marriage counseling. She says in a lot of marriages, it's sexless. I was like, yeah, I know, right? And she said, drink some coffee real quick. She said that women have starfish sex sometimes to humiliate a man. It's humiliating. And we all know this, so never have that. If you're having that, get out. Anyway, so today we're going to discuss a criminal case because we use those as cautionary tales. And we use them as a backdrop to, just explain relationship dynamics so people can help have a tangible kind of mental model and say, oh, okay, I see, okay. You know, they did this and they should have changed this or whatever. And so we can connect dots. What dots have we kind of been connecting already? Well, we've been connecting the fact that when a man's not respected, a man's not loved, and that person could be in danger, we've connected the dot that, or at least, you should be, hopefully. Women use abuse to manipulate men. You know, they'll make allegations of abuse where that might not have existed. Women, in men that have paid heavy prices, like with their lives, they were being disrespected. There were numerous signs they were being disrespected. And what was also happening, they were having a torrid sexual affair with an alpha bang. And normally when a man was victimized, at least the cases I've looked at so far, if he was a victim and lost his life, or went to prison because he acted in an inappropriate way to a woman, like attempting to kill her. There were things going on that he should have seen, right? And they were all tend to be, well, I say 10. They were all very high status individuals, doctors. We've had doctors, we've had lawyers, we've had a lawyer. We've had business owners. Today it's going to be a millionaire. Spoiler alert, which a millionaire is doing 30 years in prison. He was convicted of attempted murder, attempted first degree murder, I believe. But yeah, he's doing 30 years. Basically, he's doing a life sentence because he's 64, or he was at the time. So he'll be 94. He'll be 94 when he gets out. So he got a life sentence. I mean, he's a millionaire. I don't know if he's anymore, but he was. These are the dots you need to connect. I have yet to do an alpha. I don't think. Well, the one on the I've yet to do an alpha C side. Where they're in trouble. Usually it's the beta need side. So the Rochelle case. It is Mike Rochelle and Susan Rochelle. Mike Rochelle was 64 at the time of his conviction. That was in 2018. He was, but he had been married for 10 years to Susan Rochelle. And, here's how this story goes. So Mike Rochelle, in the beginning of his, in his formative years or whatever, his younger life, he had a family. He was married 25 years prior to his second marriage, okay? And that was like your, American dream, the Beaver Cleavers. That's what he had. He was apparently a technology mogul, or whatever. He made millions of dollars in the technology space. It doesn't say what he did, but whatever it was, he was successful at it. So, you know, and, you know, he had several. I don't know how much millions, but it was several. I'm thinking because his house. You see his house. He had a lakeside condo. So, you know, and so he lived a good life. He was affluent. He lived in Gainesville, Florida, and I think that's where the Florida Gators are, right? Anyway, but and then he had bought another business when he married Susan, I believe. So, but you know, what's important too is he had 2 kids, I believe, from his first marriage. They were beautiful girls too, beautiful girls. And his wife was really cool from his first marriage. She's 25 years, and she actually went to bat for him in his trial. And she was on the documentary saying that he's not a violent man, never laid a hand on her during their marriage. You know, was a super awesome dude. You know, and was you know, and it said went to bat for him. This is his ex-wife, and she was very kind about, you know, their marriage, and she basically said he was gone all the time. You know, he was a big technology mogul, you know, but he provided for our family, and you know, he loved our family, he loved our daughter, he's a good father, and she had nothing bad to say about him, just that they grew apart. You know, they were kind of opposites, you know. So she filed for a divorce from him, and after 25 years of marriage. No shade on that, you know. And that's what you want, at least if your wife is filing divorce on you, you know. And obviously he probably was able to keep a lot of his money because she was cool to him. And that's the thing. Even if you're deciding, or a couple's deciding that the relationship's not going to work, and she respects you, she ain't gonna just bilk you. That's why it's important to know this stuff, right? So anyway, but you know, there's not too many ex-wives that would sit there and go to bat for their husbands like that, right? So anyway, so you know, but so what happens now? So she said though she wanted to move out of the marital home that they had lived in for 25 years, a very nice home, his wife, because he still had daughters at college. And she said when her daughters came home, you know, she wanted them to be able to come home to their, you know, their house, not like, you know, and spend time with their father, you know. So again, another cool thing she did, right? So but she said it's kind of weird because soon after, and it wasn't like he was having an affair, he wasn't. But he's a beta male. Mike Rochelle, beta male. In my opinion, because and this you'll see a lot. Beta males will do this. They'll get out of a marriage like that, or get a long-term relationship, and they got to get it into another relationship. They do not want to be single. They do not want to be out here because dating's hard, you know, and approaching women and you know, dating women and, you know, figuring out, you know, how to get through the space. It's hard. It is. There's work you got to do. The game ain't free. You know, you got to put in work. You know, and so you know, a lot of guys don't want to put in work. They want to get a nice girl, you know, whatever, and you know, put a ring on it, and you know, call it a day. You know, they don't like being alone. You know, and that's kind of seems how he was, right? And a lot of guys get their validation by a female, having a female around, right? Oh, look, I'm wanted, I'm needed by a female, and she's pretty, and so I'm cool, and you know, I used to live that life, but I've talked about it before, but so what happens? Here you go. Listen, this is very important for everyone. Listen up, everybody. He meets his new wife on Match.com, a dating app. Okay, we're gonna connect some dots here, right? Well, he's, you know, I can't remember how much older. He's considerably older than she is. I think by 15 years, something like that. So, what a great way to meet. She was hot. I thought she was hot. She was 38 at the time they met, and she was very good looking. She was a look her up, Susan Rochelle. But she basically is kind of a natural hot. You know, she was you know, just had good genetics. You know, she was a hospice nurse at the time. You know, so what we can say is probably, you know, low 6-figure earner probably. But you know, these days that's working class. You know, she's you know, she's got enough money to do a couple things, but you know, not living the life she was going to start living when she got married, right? When she got married, she instantly had which she ended up staying at when they get into some marriage problems. But she had a lake condo or whatever. You know, that's where she would stay when they got, you know, mad at each other, right? And she had $1 million home, and she had a beautiful Range Rover, you know. And so, I mean, she went from, you know, well, speaking of Range Rover, but, you know, just something like that, you know. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, but her good looks, and so, but here's something, you know, and this, I think, is a shout out to Rollo Tomasi, but what, if you treat her like a celebrity, she'll treat you like a fan. Well, he would call her, and you never do this, gentlemen. You have to be her hero. She has to think you're better than her. You have to be levels above her, you know, because that's the only way we'll get compliance, you know. I'm telling you, I'm not going to say only, but that, you know, in my opinion, a woman cannot think that she's better than you. She can't. She doesn't want to, you know. And it also strokes her ego when, you know, she thinks that her husband's better than her. Go look at the Hillary Duff and her husband. Go look at that story they did on her. She told her husband, she goes, you know, she kind of was sitting around thinking, Hillary Duff, I believe, she says, you know, what was this? Basically like, you know, women could, or, you know, you could go with other women. I know other women want you or something. And that's kind of hard to think about, she says. He goes, yeah, I mean, I guess so, huh? I mean, like basically saying, yeah, I could. And, you know, they do, you know. He ain't hiding from her. Like, she knows what kind of guy he is. They like those. She loves her husband, Hillary Duff. Go look it up. Go look up that story too. I'll do a video on that one. But you know, your wife can't think you a dusty. You know. But anyway, so go. You know, so when he's saying he's got a trophy wife, he's basically saying he's first of all pedestalizing beauty. You know, when he saw her little, you know, pictures on a dating app, he's like, oh yeah, I got, just like the, you know, I talk about Gerhard Koenig, just got last week convicted of attempted manslaughter, you know, and he met his wife on a dating app, eHarmony. Dating apps was, what can we learn? A lot of times they are beta need side, or that beta male providers. They're a shop. They're the Walmart for women to shop for beta male providers. You know, a lot of beta male providers are on the dating apps, and women can shop for them because they look at their job, you know. They look at their pictures, you know, they go on dates with them. And those beta need guys like to oftentimes, you know, pick them up in their Mercedes. And, oh, they just happen to, you know, take them by their place, and, you know, or whatever, you know. Hey, just come to my place, whatever. And it's this nice, you know, a really nice, affluent area. So women are like, oh, check. I got a beta male provider here, you know, but don't worry, she'll go to the hood and, you know, and Chad and Tyrone that are living in that one-bedroom apartment, you know, with the mattress on the floor, been that guy, and milk crates, oh, they'll go over there and get, oh, trust me, they'll go. So beta male providers, you know, yeah, anyway, so, but, you know, so that's what they do, you know, and you look at the, you know, the females, you know, bios or whatever, it's always like, you know, I need me a gentleman. Gentleman means that she's looking for a beta male provider. You know, I need a traditional man, a God-fearing man. I need a man that'll wait and invest in me like a beta male provider will. I need a man that's kind, caring, and she's a child of God, you know, fear God, whatever. You know, Father God is my, whatever. They'll mention religion. That's her acting like a good girl, which, you know, and that she's spiritual and on some celibate journey, you know. You know, but you know, that's all BS, you know. But anyway, they're all children of God's, you know. But yeah, so where was I at? Lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, so but yeah, like the Walmart, the fucking beta male providership is you know, the dating apps, especially seems like eHarmony. But anyway, moving on. And so that's where he found his girl, Match.com. Yeah, so, you know, so, and he, you know, quickly get married. So here comes a chick who, you know, and so here's what he does, you know, here's what you don't find out on these dating apps, you know, is that, you know, yeah, you know, and just like this chick, I think she naturally looked good. I think she was genetic. Some women, and all men too, they just have genetics that they really don't have to put much makeup on. They don't have to, you know, they don't work out. They just got good body, good structure, you know. You know, and so But what you don't see is, behind those pictures that she put out there, behind her little bio, it doesn't have the story about, I was in AA, 3 times, and, finally I got the right SSRI, and, I mean, I'm working off that stalking charge, whatever, it doesn't have that. They're not going to put that on their bio, What did Rollo Tomasi say? They look like a safari, they're like you're going on a safari in the African wilderness or something, with all these girls' bios, on dating apps, whatever. It is kind of crazy. Like, I'm, it's like, where are all these, like, super successful traveling ladies that I see over here? Anyway, you meet them and they're like, oh, yeah, that was one time I went, come on. Anyway, I digress. But, yeah, so she she knew. And like I said, women size you up. They size you up, She sized him up, like this little bitch. He thinks I'm hot. I'm gonna suck on his D, pretty good for the first couple times. He's gonna freaking fall in love with my D sucking and, and my hotness and whatever. He hasn't seen this, I'm gonna throw it back on him, and ride that D, to earn my friggin' lake condo and, all that stuff. So anyway, yeah, so they get married, and it's a surprise to us. He already had a family, at that point, girls in college and everything. So, well, apparently, he finds out that she's an alcoholic. She's an alcoholic, and that's a problem. And so, and she married him for money. When they marry for money, they don't respect you. You're not that alpha bang. You are a resource. You are a utility. You are to be used up, consumed. And that's what she was doing. She had gone to jail for domestic violence. They had some kind of drunken, scuffle, but once again, it shows he's not leading it, He's not leading the relationship, and he's getting pushed around by this woman. And so apparently the police came out, and it was a bunch of nothing, and trust me, I know. But they basically were like, hey, just go to your condo, lady, and separate for the night. It's a cooling off period, right? Well, apparently, I guess they got a call back, and it was 30 minutes later. She's still hanging out at the house. She hadn't gone to her, done her cooling off period yet. So they're like, yeah, you can go to jail. I mean, right there, she don't care about rules. Rules, what, I don't believe in authority. Like my husband, yeah, screw this guy, And police, screw them too, I mean, and she was a mean drunk, okay? And mean drunks, so she had to go to AA, I guess, after that arrest, I think. But mean drunks, that's usually they got some issues. Like they got some, anger issues. For, you can have happy drunks. I mean, they say usually alcohol, it emphasizes, what you already are. So, if you're just a jerk, you'll be more of a jerk. So, and women are the worst drunks. When they start getting mean, they go freaking scorched earth. I mean, I was a police officer for 22 years. We deal with I was night shift for most of that, probably 18 of them. And, it was 10 to 6, so 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. when I worked. But, so yeah, you're overnight, you're dealing with a lot of drunks and female drunks. I mean, they are diabolical. If you have any, they'll make, they'll find personal things to attack you on because they know they'll piss you off. So anyway, so yeah, I can imagine what she was, doing, saying to him, right? Shaming him down, But anyway, so apparently, he's been taking abuse, and again, he was, once, like I said, he got a hot girl, his little trophy girl, whatever. But I've said before, it doesn't matter if you have access to her, you got her, whatever. But did you get her? How you got her matters, And so if she sized you up as a beta male provider, she treated you like a beta male provider. You did not get the best for her, I guarantee it, You were utility to be used. And he was a dork. I mean, he was, sorry to say, as far as with women, right? That doesn't mean like he was a technology guy. If someone paid him millions of dollars to do technology stuff, whatever it was his business was. So, he sought after there. But when it came to ladies, dude, big dork. And she knew it, But he felt, Mr. Cool Guy with his trophy, validated. He knows he's a dork. I mean, so dorks don't usually get girls like this. So he's like, oh, and I guarantee he led with his money, right? So she's like, oh, you gonna leave with your money? I'm gonna go ahead and take your money, right? So, and so in the trial, oh, sorry, I haven't even gotten there yet. So anyway, after the domestic violence thing, they're kind of separated. I think they're living apart, right? Well, he decides that, what, let's do a steak dinner, and it's going to be like here in Houston, we got Capitol Grill, Roost Steakhouse, Papa's Steakhouse. We got stuff like that, right? Those 5-star restaurants, really nice, and rich people go to those, right? And so anyway, I think they decided to do that to rekindle, their marriage, and because they had been separated for a little bit. So, what's he doing? He's using a 5-star. It could have been, if it would have been me, it'd been Taco Bell, that but that would have been a way I could afford, But he's going to try to woo her, and so he's using his money to get that, But what he doesn't understand is that's not what's going to. That doesn't build genuine desire. She might have a great night. Oh, this was interesting. What a woman will say is, that was fun. That was interesting. Yeah. Chad and Tyrone could take her to friggin' Taco Bell, and she's thinking about that D the whole time. That's what you want. But anyway, so they go to this place, and they have surveillance in their house, right? All, because they're a rich place. So all over their house, they got cameras, right? And she's seen... drinking wine, already starting off with the wine, pre-gaming it to go to dinner with her husband because she probably can't stand him, she's probably trying to tolerate him, right? So anyway, she's drinking wine, whatever, and they're having a good old time, right? Well, anyway, apparently the daughter and her has friction, and she was daddy's little girl, which is fine. That's his daughter from another marriage. She got married and stuff like that, and I'm sure she had him wrapped around her finger, and that there was, she didn't like that because she's, probably insecure and she wants that, whatever, right? She didn't like the daughter. And she said he had boundary issues with her. Maybe he did. Ain't none of your, but if he was leading that relationship, ain't none of your business. That's my daughter. Stay out of it. That's how you lead it. If she keeps talking about it, get out of my, scorched earth, get out of here. Get out. What are you going to do? You tell her, anyway. So, the daughter has a wedding, right? And the fight started. Well, her daughter, by the way, the lady, the Susan is his wife at the time. She buys his daughter her wedding dress with, obviously, it's micro shell, and he gives her a credit card, has her name on it, right? Because she's he's providing for her, right? $11,000. Push down the credit card. I got this. Now, if she was still a nurse, how many nurses out there? And there are some. Don't get me wrong. I know some save their money. Could spend $11,000 on a wedding dress right now. Just go. You're gonna go, or just a dress in general, or anything in general. How many nurses right now could go? Throw down a credit card, not even a credit card. Let's say debit card. $11,000. Not bad enough. Well, she could because she married into money. That's what power that beta provider gets her, right? She likes that. She likes to be able to do that. It doesn't make her vagina any wetter. It doesn't make her any more aroused or any more interested in having sex with you. Good. Way to go. Now she got a good feeling from it, but that's about it, So anyway, so yeah, so yeah, I mean, and then. So the fight at the restaurant starts when they're drinking, and they're drinking. He was drinking too. I guarantee he liked to drink too. In these affluent areas, he liked to, they have social events. A lot of times it's alcohol. Wine. Now, wine's not, wine's upper class alcoholics. So anyway, so I'm not an alcoholic, it's wine. But anyway, yeah, so I think they're both drunk on this night, right? But here's what happens, right? You can kind of tell what kind of bitch he was in the relationship. So, first of all, your wife fighting with you and disrespecting your public's already a no-go. You're done already, right? So you're already in big danger. You need to have an exit strategy. Anyway, so a fight starts out. And what's the fight over? Well, number one, he told his daughter that she was arrested. And that was supposed to be she says that was supposed to be a secret. Here's how you deal with that. Well, it's not anymore. I told her, and I didn't have a problem with it. So, I mean, that's what you say as a man. Yeah, whatever, Yeah, I decided different. This is how I do things. So if you don't like it, scram. I mean, she thinks that we're just discussing that, you're the leader. Yeah, I told her. Yeah, I did. So anyway, how's your asparagus? We're not fighting about this. If yeah, we're not going to talk about this at the dinner table. If you're going to keep talking about this, you can go. Find your place, stay tonight. Whatever. You ain't staying in my place. Whatever. That's how you roll. But anyway, so yeah, so they're arguing about that, and here's the other part. He admitted to her that they went $150,000 over the budget of the wedding. They were $150,000 over. So if they're $150,000 over, well, how much did that wedding cost? $500,000 at least, probably. I mean, I just we're a couple bucks over. If it had been, if it been my wedding, we're a couple bucks over. How much? Well, about $5. They're $150,000 over. So anyway, so yeah, so that's what they're fighting about. Well, does she even? It's his money. Does she even have, authority? I mean, yeah, they are married, but does she really have authority to be upset about it? That's his money. He made it. Now you're his wife, or you were able to get this sucker to marry you. So now it's your money too. But he made it. His skills, his know-how made it. Your vagina got you this freaking money. Whatever. It's it is what I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying. So yeah. And she's telling him your daughter has boundary issues, and here's a big. He's a bitch guy in this thing. So this is where this never would happen in my world. So she's like, I'm leaving. They're leaving this 5-star restaurant where they're supposed to be renewing vows or whatever. And she takes he goes home in his Range Rover, and he takes she takes an Uber home. Yeah, she takes an Uber home. So it's like, she goes home in a Range Rover, and he goes home in a Range Rover, and she takes an Uber. Hell no! Like, she was leading. Who's leading? Who's leading if she's taking an Uber home? If she's not riding home with you? Oh, come on, dog. No, we don't. It's not the way we operate. That's not the way we operate. No, not in this world, dude. Not in this world. No, that's a bitch maneuver. Your wife punked you, man. Your wife punked you, dude. I mean, nah, man. That's not the way it's gonna happen. I mean, right? He didn't read, and this is what this guy doesn't recognize. What I talk about beta male providers, they don't. He didn't and I say, well, how important it is to know you're being disrespected. 1, you're arguing with me about my daughter, who ain't even yours. 2, you're arguing about money, which is my money. 3, when you decide to leave, whatever, you're not even riding home with me. I mean, dude, you are dirt. You are trash. And for their wedding anniversary, just prior, because we're going to have the crime coming up, and I'm going to tell you in a second. But the year prior to this crime happening, on their anniversary, she said, happy anniversary, I hate you, I want a divorce. They still married a year later. I mean, a woman says that to you. I mean, now, if that's some guy inside joke, okay. If she's being silly, and she's being silly, yeah, okay. No, it doesn't sound like that. No. I mean, this guy, and I don't want to say, oh God, I mean, he did. Of all the stories I've talked about, this guy did seem to be a clown. He did. I'm sorry. He did. He gave me clown. He gave me clown vibes. I had a little. Yeah, I didn't have so much respect. I've given everybody respect so far, but this guy, he seemed clownish. Even in his defense, he testified. It was pretty obvious to me he's making up a story. And so, we're going to get into the crime, and I'll end this pretty quickly. But the crime, so he gets charged with attempted murder. And that is legit. I mean, he deserves that charge all day long. So when they get home, this stupid lady, I think I was a stupid lady, but this disrespectful, beta male predator lady, she is talking crap on her phone. Again, ladies, you're allowed to talk crap. It's free country. freedom of speech, whatever. But you're also, you're also going to have some consequences to your speech. And she did. Now, was it right? No. Again, if someone, she gets stabbed in this case. It doesn't make, but you're still stabbed. Okay? Do not talk crap to a man in his house. I'm just saying, I'm not saying for moral, no. That man could get aggressive. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I don't like it, But, so what ends up happening is she says, your bitch ass daughter is going to ruin you. And then, you have boundary problems, and then she says, what else she say? She says, I'm going to destroy you in another text. I mean, she's just texting a litany of fucking FUs, basically. You're a loser. And women will do this. I dated a female like this at one point. And I used to say, hey, I'm not reading any more of your texts. You're just trying to injure me, emotionally. You're just trying to say crap to make me feel bad, get me upset. That's what these texts are. What are you accomplishing by saying you'll destroy me? Like, you're trying to get me fired up. Now, I would say, that ain't gonna work. I'm not reading any of your stuff. And it would stop her. I said, I'm not reading any of this. That's what you tell them. If a girl starts doing this, war texting, you don't text back. You just let her know, ain't reading none of that. So I want to say, leave it, just leave it, So anyway, and the final text comes in, I'm divorcing you, I'll be out in the morning. And that's where he snaps. Because this beta male realizes he's about to lose his little validating, trophy little wife or whatever, and his money that he so highly, cherishes. In my life, like I said, these videos I do because I have experienced 50 years of life, I've gotten rid of everything in my life at times, everything. And I'm fine, gone to nothing. Valuable things, items, I've had nice car, gone. Items, houses, what we do attach emotional significance to a lot of these things, but you can do without all of it. You can Armageddon everything and get rid of it. You'll be okay. You will be okay. You have to know this. And so, but I don't think he would have been okay with that. He was bothered by the fact that she might get his fortune. And here's what I've also said in other cases. Here's another connected dots. We had the Hawaiian acupuncture guy, and his murderer, right? He was Eric Thompson. He was trying to, punish the guy for, cheating with his wife, right? And so, well, what happens there? You're going to prison. Well, you're not going to have your wife anymore. You're not going to, you're in prison. Just almost like this guy, he's worried about her taking his fortune. Well, his attempted murder, he's in prison for 30 years now. His fortune is, so what you were trying to prevent, what they say, you attract what you fear. You attract what you fear, is what it's saying. He attracted what he feared. He attracted, it broke. He lost all his money because he's in prison. And maybe his kids can use it, but I don't think he needs that much money at the commissary, so. But anyway, so yeah, what he was trying to prevent, your fear will ruin you. Fear always catastrophize the consequences, And, but yeah, so, what else happened? So now, so now she sent this, and he snaps, and he goes and they have nice, they have what they call it, silverware or whatever what they call it. But anyway, they have a nice knife set. Well, he goes and gets what looks like a steak knife or something, but it was a nice one. It could do some good damage. And he brings it in the bedroom, and he stabs her in the stomach. He stabbed her in the neck. He cuts her wrists. But this was a very botched job. I'm glad it was, because, and it's just ridiculous what he's doing. But at the end of the day, like I said, as a police officer, you have to respect your enemy at times, right? You have to respect the killer guy. You have to respect, Meaning you're not condoning what he's doing. You're saying, I respect what he does, his craft of killing, so that you can beat him in it. So you can save society from him, the danger that he will create. But so yeah, I mean, so it's like, but this guy, I can't respect him. If he was trying to be the next serial killer, he would have been bad, because he couldn't even, his wife is hammered drunk. I'm sure he was hammered drunk. His wife was hammered drunk, and he can't, she survives, but he did good damage. Ridiculous what he did. She bled out a lot, and then he sits on her. Like, you're not going anywhere, and you're not divorcing me. I'm just letting you know this. And they just chill in the bedroom. Now the wife says that she lost bodily function. She apparently urinated and, number two'd in the bed, I guess, allegedly, because he wouldn't let her go. He was holding her there. You're not going anywhere. You're not calling 911. You're not getting any help, lady. I got you. Like, you're going to bleed out right here. He said, you're going to die right here. And, well, she ends up, again, women in manipulation, they're good at it. She ends up, just like how she married him, she's like, it's okay, we don't have to get divorced. If you just let me get some, medical attention, we don't have to get divorced, And so this idiot's like, oh, good idea, So, obviously she's gonna, doesn't have her sign a contract or anything. She's gonna go back on it, which she does, reports to the police. But now they got to come up with a story, because, he stabbed her here, and when the cops come, he doesn't want to get in trouble. He goes, well, I'll only let you go if you say some intruder came in and, got us, And so he turns off all the surveillance cameras in his house, and, the cops come, and, oh, some masked man, guy came in and got us, and, stabbed us in our sleep. And come on, man. But anyway, it didn't work too good, that little, she went with it, but when she got out of surgery and was recovering, she's like, yeah, that story was BS. He did it. So her agreement to it, lasted as far as when she recovered. She immediately went and told the truth. So, the cops were like, really, So, he got put on trial, like I said, and he was convicted, of the murder. But and this is one good important point, He says, he's on the stand, he testifies for himself, and probably a little bit of a narcissist. Narcissists like to testify for themselves, And his story of how it happens, it's always funny. Like, I don't say funny, I mean funny in a like, interesting. But she got stabbed in the neck and slashed on the wrist. He's telling how this knife fight's happening. She allegedly had the knife, according to him, And he's trying to get it out of her hands like freaking Steven Seagal, I'm just a cook, he was just a cook, And so he's trying to grab the knife for his wife, he's trying to help her, Yeah, she's trying to stab him. That's what she said in court. She's trying to stab him. That was his story, right? Of course you got to say that. And then he fell over and he plunged it in her stomach on accident. That's what he said, right? But he only accounted for one injury. She's got one to her neck and her wrist. He hadn't accounted for any of those. It's just funny how a lot of these times you'll hear how they're trying to, these guys are trying to testify for themselves. Well, then I spun around, there was a case here in Houston. I'll digress a little bit, but it was the Harris County Sheriff's deputy, and him and his wife got into an argument, and his gun apparently accidentally discharged on the night of the argument. Go figure. On the night of the argument, accidentally discharges twice. Now his lawyer's got to make something up there, that's very uncommon. I'm telling you, it's very uncommon. Once, okay. Twice? Come on, man. So anyway, I'm not laughing about the situation. I'm just saying, don't do this stuff, and you don't have to worry about it. So anyway, we'll go back to the case. But one big thing that reveals a lot about this guy, the beta knee guy, and how he doesn't realize women don't care about that side of their dual mating strategy, that's not the side you want to be on. That doesn't get you respect. That doesn't get you laid, or that doesn't get you laid in the proper way you want to get laid. She ain't sucking the chrome off your bumper. You know what I'm saying? Do you guys know what I'm saying? The alpha bangs, she's sucking chrome off the bumper, dude. Chrome off the bumper to impress your ass. But beta knee, she can barely. You probably ain't getting paint off of that thing. Old paint. She was there. But so anyway, got credit, and I don't have to do it now for another 3 weeks or whatever. But anyway, so he said while he stabbed her in the stomach, he slit her wrist, he stabbed her in the neck, and he told her, "You're not going there. You're going to die with me right here, because or you don't get a divorce." That was that's his plan, and that's what's happening. They're sitting on bed, bleeding out, and he says on the witness stand, "We had the most beautiful talk at that time." I mean, who's believing this BS, right? But what he talks about is they were going to renew their marriage. They got back to, while she's bleeding out, they're having this connection, and they started talking about trips they're going to take. They were going to go to Tuscany. And I'm not making this up. They were going to go to Greece, because they never been to Greece. He's saying this on the witness stand. They were going to go to Florence, Italy. They were going to go to the Rhine in Germany and take a riverboat tour. I mean, he's saying this, right? But what he's saying is this how he believes, this is his fantasy of with his, he wants this lady, he wants to work with this lady because she's so hot, I think. But that's not how you make it work with trips. That's his, if he could, that's his operational strategy. Give my wife trips. They had this moment of this, they were going to take all these trips, and life was going to be beautiful again, with this relationship. I mean, if you're this Gerhard Koenig, I mean, this connect the dots, people. He had money. Where did he get arrested at? He lives in Maui. They're in Oahu in Honolulu doing a hike. They're on a trip. He's on her birthday. I mean, Beta Knee guys are going on trips to impress their girl. St. Louis Obispo is somewhere another trip happens. Impress his girl. The women, this is a personal story that I can tell you trips don't matter, right? And you learn from my mistakes. Okay, I spend, I don't know, who knows how much. I mean, probably 15 G's. And I take my girl at the time, who wasn't awesome, she's an awesome girl, but I didn't know how to lead. So we go to Beaver Creek, Colorado, which is cool. It's right by, I think it's like Vail, was it? Yeah, Vail, yeah. And it was a nice place, okay, and took her 2 daughters. They were awesome girls, right? And they were my stepdaughter at the time. We dated 8 years. And so we go there, and like I said, I bought everything. And, the minute we land, we're in the airport, in the parking garage. And she says, "Where do you want to go next year on the 4th or something like that?" I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I had just, that's 15 G's had just been spent, and the ending of spending those 15 G's is happening in the airport, and so, and she's saying, "Where's my next 15 G's vacation going to be?" And that's what I learned. It don't matter how much you spend. You can't spend enough to make a woman happy at times, and that. But Chad and Tyrone go to Taco Bell in the hood in their 1-bedroom apartment. They don't need Santa Louis Obispo. They don't need Oahu like Dr. Gerhard. They don't need that. They know what gets them, where women need to be taken. They need to be taken to that mattress on the floor, and they need to be plowed down, blown out. And you think I'm joking? I'm not joking, dude. I've lived a life, and there's no flexing on that, dude. That's why I know this stuff. That's why I'm trying to pass it on to everybody else. Don't be that Beta Knee like these losers, man. This guy was a loser. But it's a loser strategy, if I can say that. The men are not losers. So again, now this guy's doing 30 years in prison. He's got daughters. He's got grandkids. Look at the price he's paying, y'all. Look at the price he's paying, because he didn't know how to manage his relationship. He didn't know how to manage. He thought a good-looking drunk bitch was. Apology too. But he didn't know that he gave his whole family up for that. He gave his whole livelihood up for that. He gave his whole fortune up for her. Ain't no vagina that good, gentlemen. Ain't no vagina that you'd be better off. I'm sorry, but in this case, you'd be better off pouring video games in your basement in a nice place. Your rest of your life single. I'm sorry, I'm just, if you're not gonna learn how to manage relationships, dude. But this is why we're teaching it here. That's why we're teaching it here. Be a man that is worthy of being banged. Be a man that's worthy of blowing ladies' backs out. And that is, be assertive, be a dominant type individual, be calm and confident, know who you are, know your identity, know where you stand, be a person of moral character, have integrity, you're going to do the right thing when no one else is looking, not because it's getting you something, because that's who you are. Know that identity. I don't bend for hot women. I don't bend for ugly women. My name's Brian. I'm saying Brian. My name's Brian, and it's Brian stays this way. It's the way Brian rolls. You don't like it, you can go kick rocks, bitch. That's the way you gotta be, because you know who you are. But you gotta do work. Take care of your fashion. Take care of your body. You take care of your diet. Always try and be learning stuff. Be a man. The 4 virtues of men: emotionally strong, physically strong, be courageous, be a man that other men respect, and have skills. Those are the four virtues of men in the way of men. I think that's true, actually. Though. That's how you be an alpha bang. It's not just about looks. It's not about money. Money's probably the worst thing, but anyway, we can conclude it. It's not about status, but status will get you respect among other men, so that's a virtue, whatever. But it's about mindset, that mindset. Read The Way of Men. It'll teach you, it's one theory of men. Becoming a Barbarian, another book in that series. Very, very good book, and the last book of that series is failing me right now. But Jack Donovan's the guy, the author. Look up Jack Donovan, The Way of Men, Becoming a Barbarian, another one. But if you want to learn how to be a man and have that mindset, or look at some podcasts on man mindset, and you can't. These aren't techniques. These aren't things. When I first started learning all this stuff and how I could change myself in the game, I used to start learning how there's certain lines. Like if you want to take a girl on a date, I learned this work. You just say, hey, well, let's go out Saturday then. It would be like Monday. Back when 2018, I got on the dating apps hard. And the lady would be like, oh, Mr. Confidence, huh? I wasn't even putting 2 to 2 together. I just knew that this was the line they gave me to say, and it would work. Well, what that meant was I'm leading the situation. I'm confident enough to say, let's go somewhere. I'm confident enough to give a direction, and she's following the direction. I had no idea what all that meant. And, interested women will cooperate with you. I had no idea all that. I just knew to say this line. So, and a lot of times when I was learning this stuff, if you're on the fly or whatever, you're like, okay, if I need this, and you learn it, right? And in the beginning, you're like, whoa, she said this. What do I do? How do I, No, now it becomes a part of you. The game becomes a part of you. It's not. These aren't tips and tricks to get over in 4 days. You can forget them. You're not craving for a test. No, you need to become that person. So it's a muscle memory. This woman said this. She wanted to go home from the restaurant that invited her to, and ruined the date. Told me that I could go kick rocks. And you're like, oh, that's not the way things work. And it's over. You end it. Well, that's disrespect right there. Not gonna take that. That's nope. That hey, you meet up with a girl. And he said, hey, let me give you my number. She's like, no, let me give you mine, or let me give you my Instagram, or whatever. And you're like, nah, that's okay. That's cool. I'm good. Because that's not. She ain't gonna run the stuff. That's your lifestyle. That's the way. It ain't. This ain't tit for tat. Hey, why? I live in Houston. Hey, why don't you come to Austin and meet me this weekend? It's okay. I don't. It's a party. I don't go to Austin. I don't drive 2 hours, 3 hours to meet a girl. No, man. So it's a part of you. Now, if someone was doing tips and tricks where, okay, do I go to Austin? Wait, she's good looking though. That's a man wavering. That's how But anyway, so let's go real quick on what we learned today. I'll end this. What did we learn today? Beta need guys are not respected. There are predator women out there. Beta need provider guys will often pedestalize the beauty like this guy did. Dating apps are a hunting ground for women looking for beta males. If a woman's asking you what you do for a living, she wants to see your job, You know, she wants to go on 10 dates before having sex with you. That's the woman looking for a beta male provider. If you're leading and trying to impress her with your stuff, and you need to know this, you know, if you want, you know, if you're talking about your bank account, and all, you know, that's you trying to lead with money, you know. So don't, you know, alpha banks, that tends to get the best of women, in my opinion. You know, don't let fear, ruin a situation. Understand what you might be trying to avoid because you're fearful. You're actually attracting, like this guy, trying to avoid losing his fortune. He attracted it. Okay? Gerhard Koenig was trying to save his marriage. He's going to jail for attempted murder now, or attempted manslaughter. He attracted what he feared. Eric Thompson, he was fearful that his wife cheated and he would be upset if she'd do it again. So he killed the guy that did it. He attracted what he feared. He's now lost his wife. She's alive, but, lost his wife, because he's in prison for the rest of his life. Don't do these, when you become scared and fearful, slow down, get a friend. Those are the things we learned today, right? And learn the signs of disrespect. Talking back to you, angry text. We don't argue over text. Talking crap to you over text. They leave from the restaurant in separate vehicles, that kind of thing, and, again, and then he didn't manage it. He managed the situation so badly that he got to a point where, he wanted to do harm to her, that he snapped, and if you're not managing a situation, the situation will manage you, and it's like, you can't ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of not ignoring reality, So I think that's where we'll leave this one, okay? See you on the next one.